guys, this is Dormouse03.
And I'm Iron Praetorian.
Welcome to another episode of Ramblings of Mad People.
We're attempting to try and do this like once a month, hopefully.
And so this is our edition for January and for our kind of wrap up of the first month of the year.
Yes, indeed. I will apologise now if I sound a little bit gruff. I have a bit of a sore throat at the moment, so...
Yep.
Time of year, sadly.
It's unfortunately, it's been cold. So we're going to start off by talking about the things that we have been playing this month. So games that we've completed, games that we're working on, that we started in the past month, and kind of what we thought of them. You don't need to worry. There's going to be no spoilers for any of the story stuff for any of the games that we're going to talk about. We're just going to kind of give a general impressions. Kind
Broad
of a deal.
Strokes.
Yes. So I will kick things off here. The first thing that I did, this was actually on January 1st. was when I was playing this game, and I actually completed the first of the DLCs that I'm going to talk about, was the Dawn of Ragnarok DLC for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I completed it on January 1st, and then I continued and did the final DLC for me, for that game called The Forgotten Saga. And that was that game completely complete. And I think, knock on wood, that's forever. It will be complete now, because I don't think that they're planning on adding any more DLC.
It doesn't sound like it.
No, it doesn't sound like it. So, impressions of the Dawn of Ragnarok DLC. I thought it was interesting. Like it was an interesting little wrap up. Well, I guess that plus the Forgotten Saga was an interesting little wrap up of the Odin storyline with the old ones and kind of what was happening with them prior to Ragnarok. And it introduced a whole other area for you to go to in Svartalfheim and interact with a bunch of the dwarves there, and it had a whole little campaign. Now, was it worth being a whole separate DLC that they sold me in addition to the Games Pass that I had already purchased for it with my Gold Edition? I don't think so. Like, I don't think that it was any more involved than the Wrath of the Druids was, and that was a whole separate area as well. And then the Siege of Paris was a little bit shorter, but it was a whole separate area too. So was Dawn of Ragnarok just by itself worth an extra like $30 or whatever it was they were charging for it? No, I don't think it was. I don't think that it had enough content to warrant that. But it was enjoyable. I think I got it on sale. So I don't feel quite as sore about paying extra for it, but I'm so tired of them doing that, right? Where you have a Games Pass and then you have to buy more.
Well, it seems to be something that Ubisoft is doing with other games too, because they've done it with Far Cry 6 as well, where the Season Pass doesn't cover all the DLCs and they add another one on the end that isn't covered by it and you have to pay for it. Borderlands 3 did 2 Season Passes.
Yep.
And the content for the second Season Pass was nowhere near as good as the first one, yet it was still as expensive.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, what's the point of having a Season Pass or a like Gold Edition, right, of the game, which, you know, in most people's minds, that's going to include everything that comes out for the game. Oh no, but wait, there's more. We want more of your money. Just don't have that edition until everything's out and it's a Game of the Year version. Just sell everything piecemeal, right?
Yeah, it's almost like it's a season pass for season 1 and then a season pass for season 2, like, Fortnite or something like that, where they have like, but they're not the same kind of games. It's
no,
like,
you don't have seasons. You just have years that shit comes out. Right?
It's almost like, oh, well, you didn't buy the year pass, so now you've got to buy.
Right. Like now it's been over a year and we didn't quite finish the rest of this DLC as soon as we had planned to. It took longer, and so we need to make more money off of it. And it's like, I get it, developers need to be paid when they're working for years after release, like that, okay. But don't tell me a season pass and make it feel like I'm playing a season's worth of League of Legends or some shit.
Yeah, it's like season pass to us, with the games that we've played over the years, 99% of the time means that includes every piece of DLC that's coming out.
Yeah.
So season pass for The Witcher 3 had the 2 DLCs. Yep. The season pass for Fallout 4 had all the DLCs.
Right. The season pass for Assassin's Creed Odyssey had all the DLCs. Yep. Except for the title updates that were free.
But they were free.
Right? Like, I just don't understand it. Anyway, that's a whole other rabbit hole of getting down with the money grubbing. But in short, Dawn of Ragnarok, it was a good DLC. It was a good story-based DLC. I did enjoy what they did with it. I just don't think that it was worth what they tried to charge me for it. And then the Forgotten Saga, which I think was just free DLC. Like, that was a title update. Or maybe it was included in the season pass. I have no idea. But anyway, that one I didn't have to pay extra for. It was either free or it came with the season pass, even though it happened after the Ragnarok DLC. This one was interesting because it was a roguelike piece of content, right? Where each time you start the sequence that you're going through, and it's just a bunch of areas of Niflheim that you're going through, which is the underworld, right? It's where Hela is, or I guess Hell. She's called Hell in this, and so you're going through a few different areas of Niflheim, and then there's a boss at the end of each one of them, and it's a little bit procedurally generated in terms of what gear you get and what challenges are there, and you can kind of skip some but do others. And each time you go through, you start with different gear, and then they have little perks that you can buy so that you can keep some of your gear from the previous run. If you had like a weapon that you really liked, you could keep that, and you upgrade your skills and your armor and stuff. And so it was interesting. It wasn't as hellacious as I think it could have been. It wasn't super duper hard. I will say the hardest part, though, was this one boss in the third area that there was an achievement that you had to kill him without having healed at all the entire time, or I guess using these shrines to heal yourself. You could heal in other ways, but you couldn't use any of the healing shrines up through that area and up through defeating that boss. And I would say that was fairly challenging. But all in all, it was an interesting thing. I don't really feel like Assassin's Creed needs that roguelike element to it. But it was an interesting experiment, and it wasn't too long. And it was a neat sort of ending to that sort of storyline. So I am happy to have Assassin's Creed Valhalla finally, after I think over 400 hours of playtime on this thing. Let's see what this count is. 405 hours. After that amount of time, I am happy to be done with it and moving on. So that was my first game of this year.
I still have that one to finish.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get there.
Strap in.
Get ready to go. So my first game of the year was Cyberpunk 2077, which Dormouse kindly bought me for my birthday, and I finally got around to playing. I think overall it was enjoyable. I think the setting was really good, like Night City and the cyberpunk, like, type stuff. Lots of neon lights, lots of, robotic parts and interesting abilities based on those things. I would also say I liked the main story as well. I felt the main story and the setting itself worked really well together. No spoilers. I also liked with the main story that it varied depending on which NPCs you interacted with. There's like several main NPCs in the game, like Pan Am and Johnny, who's Keanu Reeves. He's great. Who can affect kind of how the game's ending turns out, which I like. So there's like 4 to 5, might be even 6 different endings that you can get depending on choices that you make across the playthroughs. And I really like that kind of game where it feels like you're making choices that matter and not just everything I do makes me have the same ending. And it's more like the build-up to the ending is more important than the ending itself.
Right, yeah, like the flavor text, before the story just sort of takes over for you.
Yeah, it's like, and this is the, like, railroad to the end because this is how it has to end kind of deal. I think I also liked, like, the NPC's quest lines as well, if you chose to do all of them, to, like, I don't know, give more depth to different parts of life within Night City. So, like, there's different factions and different backgrounds that people can have. So you can be like a corpo who worked for the corporations. You can be like a nomad. They kind of travel around outside the city, like raiding convoys and stuff. Or you could be like I think it was Fixer. Was the other one? I chose the nomad one. But it was like you could be like a denizen of the city that's more on the side of crime kind of
right
deal.
The street kid.
Street kid, that was it. Yeah, not Fixer. And so I thought it was interesting to see from different people's points of view how they liked and disliked the cities in different ways and their different issues that they were dealing with. I also liked the skill system, where you had like 5 different skills that you could put points in, and there were several different like skill trees within those like bigger abilities, and so you could play in lots of different ways. So you were more like stealthy, whereas I was just running around with very large weapons blowing people up, because that's just how I roll.
Yep.
Who needs to be stealthy when you've got giant machine guns?
Yeah, I definitely chose the more like stealthy / hacking kind of route.
Yeah, and I went oh god, what was it called? Annihilation, which was sawn-off shotguns and LMGs, and yeah, just moving extremely fast, getting like reloads off really quickly, and just lots of damage. And it worked pretty well for the most part. Now those are the good points about the game. Now we get on to some sadly still present flaws. Too many bugs. This is the PS4 version. It's still bad in places. The loading and the pop-in was terrible in certain locations, where I'm like, why can't I go down this road anymore? 14 seconds later, a bus just like reappears in the middle of the road that was blocking me from moving. It was obviously there and I couldn't see.
Wow.
I was like, excuse me? Or you just fall off your bike for no apparent reason, and then there's a bollard. And I was like, okay.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, the PS4 version must be
Still
the worst
real bad
version of it, because I played it on Xbox and it had some of those issues with the pop-in and stuff still, but nothing nearly like what you're talking about, at least from my memory of it.
Yeah, it's when it's like noticeably slow.
Mhm.
And also like the texture problems that they showed when the game released, where it's like you can see all the undertexture on people, that was still present for maybe a few seconds in certain areas. So you would just be like, oh god, what's that? Oh, it's a person. Yeah. I think the game could have done with some more polish as well, and more main content. Like, I think the story was long. The story was long enough, but it could have maybe done with being a bit longer and having less of the side stuff, the really bad side stuff that they put into just like fill out the city. So there's these like NCPD little like crime areas that you can go to. It's basically like gang attacks where you walk into an area, there's, I don't know, 4 to 10 gang members and a loot box. So you kill the gang members and then loot the loot box. And there's like some little like message in the box that you can read if you want to. And that's literally it. And there's 100 or more of them.
Yeah.
Like scattered across the city. And to get 100%, you have to do every single one. Plus all the other activities. I didn't mind the other activities so much because there were less of them. Like the fixer contracts were more interesting and the cyber psychos were more interesting because they were different in each place and there weren't like 100 of them.
Right.
I think there was like 25 cyber psychos or 23 cyber psychos, and then there was maybe like 10 to 15 of each of the other ones scattered across the city that you had to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it just felt like they'd put too much stuff that was low grade in to cover up the fact that they didn't have enough time to maybe add more in. It's like, oh, if we can quickly make these things that we can copy and paste into lots of different areas to just fill out the city to make it feel more lived in, it feels like that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I would definitely agree with that. Like the main and main side content that's there is really good. But
Yes.
but there's not enough of it, and then you have a lot of these other little things that have very little substance.
I would also say to get all of the like trophies within one run, you need to like restrict yourself to a certain build because you only get a certain number of skill points to put in. And so there's certain abilities that you needed to use to get certain trophies that unlock at different, like at higher levels. And so it kind of forced you to either go with like hacking or like crafting to be able to make the legendary gear that you needed for trophies. And then you needed to like die and come back to life with a like implant and then kill the person that killed you. And that was like level 18 and something else. And so it very much felt like I had to make these certain builds to be able to do it and not be like, what do I want to play as? Thankfully, the Annihilator one was tied to the Resurrection Kill Person trophy, so I was happy to do that because I was like, oh, well, I'll get the trophy and do my build at the same time. But it's like, it kind of, it's an RPG. You want freedom to be able to play the way you want to play. That's what I liked about The Witcher, is like, you could buy the respec potions. So you're like, oh, I need to get 100 headshots with a crossbow. I don't think it was quite that much, but it's like, well, I'll go work on that. And then I can just take this respec potion.
Right.
And get my skills back. Or, make a save and then do the thing and reload. But it's not like you have to make your way all the way to the end of the game to have enough points.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like there to have been like more romance options potentially. There's like 4, and it's very much like the straight one for It's like there's
for both.
two straights and then 2 gay ones, and then that's it. And it's like, it would have been nice to have had a little bit more choice, because there's plenty of people to interact with in like quest lines and stuff that I felt like would have made good romance options, just to like give you more choice.
Yeah. Even if the romances themselves, even if they didn't have a big side quest attached to them.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I feel like that's my experience of Cyberpunk. Overall, I would play it again. Maybe not on PS4. I might get the PS5 version and do that one again. Or get the Xbox version for like consumer research to see the comparison. Like the Xbox One version versus the PS4 version, because I am curious.
Yeah.
To see how those two would compare. But like you, I started that on the 1st of January. That was my first game of the year. Took me a couple of weeks. And it didn't take me 80 hours. It took me 111 hours.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a big difference in hours.
Yeah, I felt like when I looked at it, it hadn't updated. And I was also going by my save files, which I reloaded at certain points to do certain things. And so overall, it was about 111 hours.
Nice. That makes me feel less crazy, because it took me like 150 or something like that, 140.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? How did it take me that much longer than it took you? Because I know I was sneaking around and stuff, and so, that takes more time than rushing in with a shotgun. But I was like, I was just confused. So that makes me feel better. That's good to know. I'm just not an insane person driving around Night City for no reason, doing nothing.
Fair.
So, cool. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it for the most part. Aside from some games are polish issues. Yeah.
And then even when they've done a lot of repair work on it, it's still not up to standard.
Right. Well,
certain areas.
What's that quote? Like a game that's delayed might eventually be good, but a game that's rushed out of the gate is never going to recover from that. And I think that that's so true.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like, even if they can repair some of the bugs and glitches and stuff, they can never. I mean, I guess they can potentially with DLC and stuff, but like adding in the amount of content that should maybe be there to make it feel more like a fleshed out RPG experience.
And you can never repair that initial experience someone has with that game. It's like, nope, not playing that again. It was terrible. Like Unity for us.
Yep. So yeah. All right, cool. So my next thing that I played was, oh boy, this game called Scorn. Scorn. It was on Games Pass, and so and it was a new release from last year, and I was like, all right, I would like to play this. It's something maybe shortish, and it looks like it has some interesting sort of survival horror aspects to it, and whatnot. And so, what do I even say about this game? It was weird. It was it might be the weirdest game I've ever played.
Well, I was listening to you play it, and it sounded like some kind of strange torture.
Yeah, it was just so strange. It was like, and again, like I don't know if it's even possible to spoil the story for this, because there isn't a story for this. Like you wake up and you're some kind of weird skeletal zombie looking person.
Flesh creature.
And you're inside this giant place that's strange. It's like a ship or a palace or a something.
Is it like also organic as well?
Yeah, it's like we said it reminds us of like mind flayers from Dungeons and Dragons, right? Where their technology is partially synthetic and partially organic, so they have these like living ships and stuff. It felt a lot like that.
Could also be the flood from Halo. I thought about that afterwards, where it's almost like technology with a bunch of weird, like, gross stuff growing out of it.
Yeah, like biological material everywhere. And so the guns that you get are things that like sort of attach to your body and stuff, and you add these little attachments. And then the enemies are all these versions of this kind of weird fleshy thing. Like some of them look like slugs. The ones that I hated the most look like chickens.
Yeah, the chickens were funny. There's some like quote somewhere in my head of you going, I just sawed my hand off. Oh, it's grown back. Oh god, there's more chickens.
Yeah, it was a strange experience. And if you are really into that aesthetic, right, it might be for you. But it's not for you. I know that 1000% for certain. This is definitely not a game to recommend to you. But it was interesting because you do have very limited health and ammunition, and so it definitely has that feel of an older survival horror game where it's a lot of resource management, and like I was running by chickens going, don't spit on me chickens. No,
you were screaming at chickens.
Yes, I was screaming at the chickens. Oh my god, another chicken!
How many of you are there? There's too many chickens.
Too many chickens! Oh my god!
It's a rescue home for abandoned chickens.
for dead zombie flesh chickens. Anyway, it definitely had that sort of old school survival horror-ish feel with, you know, a lot of the challenge to it was that you just don't have the amount of resources to be able to deal with everything. And so it's like every time you turn a corner, you're like, oh god, it's a chicken. You know? So there is that vibe that I think it had going for it. Some of the puzzles, it was also like kind of puzzle heavy that I wasn't 100% expecting it to be. So it was solving these interesting sort of environmental puzzles. And there was no hand holding in it whatsoever. I don't know that there was any dialogue in the thing. There, like,
did you even have a mouth to even have dialogue?
You might not have. Well, I think there was lots of groaning and grunting and like that kind of stuff. So there was probably a mouth at some point. By the end, you might not have had one.
What, with all the growths?
With all the growths and weird things that occurred to you during the course of that game.
Welcome to this section of the podcast known as Nightmare Fuel.
But, so, for what it was all right. It was an experience. It's not an experience that I necessarily would want to have again.
No.
So.
Or, in my case, ever.
So that was Scorn. Please save us and talk about your next game.
Okay, so my next game would be, well, it's not actually a game. It's DLC. So, as I predicted, Human Fall Flat had another DLC. How many has that game had now?
I think you said it's like 13 or something.
No, it's 14. That was the 14th.
The 14th.
Extra level. Man, oh man. I mean, they don't take very long. There's usually a couple of there's usually 4 achievements / trophies, and it's like, do these 3 miscellaneous things and then finish the level. And some of the ones, like this time I think it was make it from a bag of soil to this like tower without touching red tiles. And it was called The Floor is Lava. So you just put a bunch of blocks on the floor and then you get it. There's ones before where it's like put a top hat on a cactus. I don't know why, but that's just some of the random things you have to do.
I don't know why.
I don't know why. It looked kind of like a person with like arms like this. So yeah, more of the same really. It's human fall flat. Do some strange stuff, finish level. This one was like a miniature world type deal. So, yeah.
Cool.
Oh, I did some vacuuming as well. So yeah, I did another DLC for Human Fall Flat, got the 100% back, and I'll just wait for the next one, or the next update for Minecraft, or the next update for Terraria. Hopefully, it's been more than a year since State of Decay 2 had an update, so we might be free from that one.
Right.
Maybe. I feel like they're working on State of Decay 3.
Yes. Whew. Speaking of DLC, the next thing that I did was also DLC. It was, but potentially maybe a more enjoyable DLC than that one.
I mean, it wasn't unenjoyable. It's just more.
It's just
like
more.
Human Fall Flat is enjoyable enough for me and it takes like an hour to
Yeah.
like an hour or two to do, so it's not a big deal. But it's when they release it and the achievements are broken and I can't get them for like a couple of months.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part because they've done it a couple of times.
So I did the DLC for Horizon Zero Dawn, finally.
What's it called?
It's called The Frozen Wilds. Here, the next game is called Horizon Forbidden Frozen Wild West 2, the sequel.
Yes. Because why they made Frozen Wilds and Forbidden West so similar and you keep getting confused.
I keep saying the wrong one. It's so bad. But the Frozen Wilds DLC for Horizon Zero Dawn, I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was fun. It was a nice length, so it wasn't too long, but it felt like enough to warrant its existence as DLC.
It's almost like an expansion.
Yeah, it was a completely different area, you know. And here is the thing, too. Horizon Zero Dawn wasn't too big to begin with. Right? No. Like, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is too much to begin with.
Yeah,
right?
700 and something collectibles in the main game. Too much.
And so Horizon Zero Dawn is a really good game and a really good length, and it has a nicely fleshed out world and like all that stuff to begin with. And then it had one DLC that was like $10 or $15. And it was a nice sized expansion of content. And that was it. Right? It didn't want you to pay another $300 for extra stuff. And so that's, in my head, that's the difference, right? Not that the Frozen Wilds was like more content than some of the DLCs for Valhalla, because it wasn't. They were about equal. For some of them, it was just that it felt like content that justified its own existence more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was a whole different area. It was a different, like, it was the snowy sort of northern section, and so you had different types of machines that you were fighting. It was a whole nice little storyline with a different kind of adjacent to the main story goal that you were doing, and you found out more about Silence, one of the main and best characters from that game. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice little additional content piece, and it was fun to get back into that world. I liked some of the new characters that were in it. Aurea the shaman, Aratok the chieftain of the clan. And then some of the other little side people, Varga was the weaponsmith, and Ikri was the like hunter that you did some challenges with. So I liked them. I thought that they were good. Similar to the main game, right, where they had a lot of good side characters. And it was split up for some reason into two.
Yeah, I was curious about that. It's all
two
DLC.
Trophy packs. It's the same DLC, but it's split up into two different trophy packs. One for the kind of quests, the missions that you're doing, and then others for, it calls them feats. So finding all the collectibles, reaching level 60, learning all the new skills, and killing a bunch of the new types of machines that are in there. But you're working on them at the same time. It's not like it's two separate DLCs. So that was a little bit confusing to me, like before I started it, but once I was playing it, everything happened and it was fine. So I really enjoyed the Frozen Wilds. I thought that was fun. And then I also played through the game again and did the New Game Plus Ultra Hard Difficulty playthrough.
Which I did at the end of last year. That was one of the last things I did in 2022. So
nice. And so that game now is 100% fully complete, which is awesome. And I wanted to go back through and replay the story as kind of getting prepped for playing Forbidden West.
Yay.
I'm going to get it right. And so that was nice. It was a good, like, going through the story, but not necessarily doing every single side mission and not having to get all the collectibles and stuff again, right? Just kind of going through the main story and a couple of the side things I did, just to refresh my memory on the main story and all the characters and everything, so that when I play Forbidden West, I will be refreshed on that. So very, very enjoyable. I really love that game. So
yeah, I'm glad that we both have 100% in that, and I will get around to playing Forbidden West at some point when I get it.
For Forbidden Frozen Wild West.
Yes, the sequel.
The sequel.
So, my next game was another cyberpunk style game, which was Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I will say that's a cyberpunk game done better than Cyberpunk 2077, sadly, or not sadly. So yeah, I played this one on Xbox previously, so I knew roughly what was going on. I remembered the grander strokes of the main story and stuff, but the main story is really good. So it's set in, the majority of it's set in Prague, in the Czech Republic, and it's after there was an incident in the first game where augmented people had a malfunction and killed a bunch of other people, and so it's the figuring out whether being an augmented person means you should have the same rights as a non-augmented person, and segregation and such stuff like that. And I feel like it's very well done, and how different sides are trying to manipulate events for their favor, and so it's there's pro-org rights groups, but they're also being infiltrated by people that want to use them to do bad stuff to make org seem worse.
Right.
And so you play Adam Jensen, who's basically working for a task force and investigating some terrorist attacks, and that leads you through the main story. I like the skills in Deus Ex. I think there's a really good mix of combat and utility, and so you can play in so many different ways. You can play non-lethally, or play lethally, or just cloak and run past people, or knock people out, or stun them, or blow them all up with these these like knife things that you can fire out of your wrist that then stick people to walls, and then they like explode after a short like window of time and take out other people in the room. But it's it just gives you a lot of freedom to play the way that you want to play. And I always play those games like as stealthily as possible. Like I will sneak past and I will not be seen by anybody, because I just find that fun. Of like, also those kind of games have the like don't kill anyone trophies and don't be seen kind of trophies, and I'm a little bit of a like nutcase when it comes to that kind of thing, and I'll try and do everything in one run. So I'll be like, no abilities, no kills, no. I mean, this one I didn't have to do no abilities, thankfully, because the cloak is amazing, and without it, you wouldn't get through many sections.
Yes.
I also like the fact that it like it rewards exploration. So if you go like search around areas that you're not necessarily going to for the main story, you can find a bunch of extra stuff like upgrade packs and bio cells for your abilities and money to buy different things that you need. And so it's like there was one like clinic where you go and see someone for a side mission, and I found a vent behind a wardrobe, went in and found like 5 of these things called neuropazine that gave you like 1,000 credits per one to sell. And I was like, well, that's helpful. I can now buy another Praxis kit and upgrade my character. And so it's cool to like feel like, oh, I found a secret. Or like I've made this character so that I can explore really easily. And so it makes it more fun, because it has a lot of depth and height to the game, so you can like go through the normal areas where everybody is, or go through vents, or go like up and over on roofs and such to get around obstacles. So there's many different ways to like get around obstacles, which I enjoy.
Yeah, like the traversal mechanics.
That's what I was trying to think of.
Are good and varied. Yeah.
And in comparison to Valhalla, not too many collectibles. There's like 75 ebooks in the game. You have to do a few side quests to get certain ones to appear, so it kind of makes sense to use a guide for those. But I don't know, anything that has like sub 100 collectibles, in the past we'd have been like, oh my god, 75 collectibles? And now it's like, oh, thank Christ.
Goodness.
75 collectibles. That's it. There's only 75. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like,
no,
wow,
I know exactly
75 collectibles. That's a lot. 750 collectibles. Never mind. 75's fine. We're happy with 75.
Yep. 10 times that. Jesus. Yep.
Now, only thing I dislike about this game, breach mode. They're bolted on online hacking type. It's basically challenge mode.
You mean their money grab to try to sell you microtransaction?
Yeah, my note
packs.
says microtransaction grab and DLC for it too.
Yep.
Because we didn't get enough money out of people with the base game, so let's add 2 more DLCs to it because everybody really enjoyed it. Majority of those those trophies are ultra rare because people are like, nah, I'm good. What is this rubbish? I will say it was a lot easier than the first time I did it on Xbox, because the DLCs did add these things in you can put in your inventory that up your HP and up your like energy. And so it made it a lot easier to get through certain areas because you could cloak way easier and for a lot longer period of time. And it also, I think, glitched at some point and gave me like 6,000 HP for some of the levels. And I was like, holy moly, let's go. I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it was because I was removing the like extra health packs out of my inventory and back in again. But I was like, how have I got 6,000 HP? Or it was trying to add 30% HP and got the calculations wrong on some of the modifiers. And I was like, I'm just going to run past everything and get shot and I'll be totally fine.
Yep.
It was just funny. It was like, that's a glitch in my favor that doesn't happen very often, so I'll take it.
Right.
But I did manage to get it done in a day, all of it, including the the DLC versions, so it's not too bad, but it's boring.
Yeah.
Another thing I didn't like about the main game is there's no like stat tracking. There's no stats page, and there's several like the trophies for not being alerted, not alerting anybody. And by alerts, it means an alert has to be sent. So you can get kind of seen, and someone can be like, huh. You know, like the exclamation point on the top of the head. Was it Metal Gear or whatever it is, where it's like, huh? It's like someone can do that, but as long as they don't like actively see you and instigate combat, then alarms generally don't get tripped. And as long as you don't walk through a laser trip wire, basically, then you're fine. And you can walk through those with your cloak on. I didn't realize that until midway through the game. And they were like, oh, you can walk through trip wires with your cloak on. And I was like, okay, this makes it way easier.
Huh.
Because cool. It mirrors the laser around to the other side of you so that it doesn't break the beam. And I was like, that's actually really cool. And I think the last thing is trying to do everything in one run. I maybe should have done the ebooks in a separate run so that I wasn't trying to stealth past everybody to get all of them. Because some of them are like right next to enemies, and you're like sneaking into a room directly behind some guy, standing up, looking at an ebook, crouching down, and then leaving the room again. And the guy's like, huh? Who are you? Don't worry about me. I'm just the secret ebook reader.
The secret ebook reader.
But no, I really like that game. It was a lot of fun to go back and replay. I like the area that you play in, like the hub area, isn't too big, but there's lots of little like hidden bits and pieces in those areas. There's lots of little interesting side quests to do with different people, and seeing people's opinions on the like grander strokes of the story that are going on from different points of view, from like the org side and the non-org side. And I would recommend the game. There is also a permadeath run mode, and that's one of the only permadeath runs that I would say I have fun playing.
Yeah.
Because the mechanics work so well, you're very unlikely to die unless you do something catastrophically stupid. Which I almost did on my first run on Xbox, when I was going through some pipes that had like little like lightning shock gates. And I stood in the shock gate for too long and went, I almost died there. And I'm 75% of the way through the game.
Yep.
And I can't make a safety save.
I did that on Xbox as well, where I went through a window, but it had like trip mines on it, like bombs. And I was like, oh. But I didn't die. So, yeah. That's a fun game. It's one of those things where it's like permadeath modes can be okay, but it's that piece that you said, when the mechanics support it.
Yes. 100%.
When you're fighting the mechanics, then those kinds of things are they're nerve-wracking and not fun. Because it's not necessarily you. It's the game actively working against you, and that's just it's one of my soapboxes. So yeah, enjoyed replaying through Deus Ex.
I did.
Very nice. My next one is a game that I was also replaying. On a different console, so it's Grim Fandango, which I played last year on PlayStation, and it was on Games Pass for Xbox, and it was one that's been sort of on my list of Games Pass games that I wanted to play for a while. And I kind of wanted to play something that was a little bit shorter in between doing the Horizon Zero Dawn playthrough and DLC and doing Horizon Forbidden West, because I knew that one was going to be kind of a deep dive, long, involved game. So Grim Fandango was something that I could throw on. I didn't have to pay too much attention to it because I had played it fairly recently. And it's kind of like a point and click adventure style game. It's hilarious. If you like, I guess, I don't know, Double Fine kind of humor, I suppose.
Is it like puns or?
Yes, stuff like that. So you're playing as a Grim Reaper, and so you're Manny Calavera, because it's like Mexican or like Spanish, I guess. It's sort of like Day of the Dead type stuff. So it reminds me of that. So like if you've seen like the movie Coco or are familiar with that kind of cultural beliefs, then it's that sort of thing. So you are in the land of the dead, but you're kind of like a travel agent. You're like a salesman. And so you were not a very good person, I guess, in life. And so you hadn't earned your ticket into the next life yet. And so your job was to sell people travel plans who die, and they come to the land of the dead, and they sort of enter at your sort of section, and it's how they get to the next life. So they either, if they were really good, then they're supposed to have these golden tickets on the train that takes them directly to the afterlife. But if they were not good, then they don't have access to any of those travel plans. They get like a walking stick and they have to walk the whole way. And at the beginning, you sort of uncover this scheme where the people that you're working for are like sort of cheating you and cheating people out of stuff. And so you go on this whole several year long quest, like in the game, quest to try to figure out what was going on and what they're doing and what they're up to, and save this lady who like got cheated out of her ride because of you, because of like your interference at the beginning, because you feel like you're not getting any of the good clients. All the clients that you're getting don't have access to any of the like good travel packages, and the other person that's working there gets all the good ones. And so you kind of like yoink his you steal his next client, and because of like your interference, she doesn't get like what she deserves, and so you're going to try to like fix it.
Interesting.
And it's funny. It's a very funny game. And my only problem with it is it has this achievement on it where you have to use tank controls the entire way through. So it's like you have to use left and right to turn, and then forward and backward to move. So you have to turn yourself in the direction you want to go and then press forward and go straight. You can't like move and turn as you're going. And it's just such a pain in the ass.
It just sounds like it would drive me mad.
I played it a little bit afterward without those on, and it's just night and day. It's so much easier to control without that stupid thing on there. And I guess one of the, like, in the achievement description, it says Tim made us do this, like made us put this on. And so apparently one of the developers, Tim Schafer, really likes tank controls and thinks that's how games should still be played. And it's like, dude,
sounds like Tim needs to be shot with the tank.
Quit trying to force other people to play the way you play. Like, just let people do something
But that's what we do as gamers. Everybody's got to play the way
Everybody's got to play the way that we play. So anyway, that was it was a fairly quick, fun little completion, you know. It was nice to like replay back through it and like enjoy some of the humor and everything again. So, Grim Fandango.
Grim Fandango.
Would recommend if you like that kind of sort of point-and-click adventure style games, and similar to Secret of Monkey Island and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm curious.
I do think that you would enjoy it. I think that
Yeah.
you would enjoy that one. I think that you would also be frustrated with the tank controls, but there isn't really anything that you have to do quickly or whatever. So
There's no quick time events with tank
yeah,
controls.
exactly. There's nothing like that you have to do with them. It just extends the amount of time that you're playing because you go in and out of areas that you don't mean to. So. Yeah.
So those are the only things that I completed in January. But you and I started playing Anthem on Xbox because it was on super sale for like £3.
Yep.
And we enjoyed playing it on PlayStation. We haven't finished it yet, but we're making good headway through it. We've got a few of our suits done because there's like 4 different suits in Anthem, and you have to play missions or do like public events with each of their loadouts a certain number of times, and you have to get a certain number of kills with each weapon. And so we're getting through that and playing through the main story. So that's fun doing that again with my big chunky Colossus.
Yep, and we got through a lot of the collectibles a lot faster this time because we kind of knew what we were doing with the procedurally generated ones
as well.
Yeah.
I was like, I know where we need to go this time. And I will say, like, the ones that glitched on us last time, for whatever reason, in the Xbox version, they didn't count towards the counter. They just gave nothing. It was kind of like they didn't exist. So it didn't mess us up, which was nice.
Right. Yes.
Because we kept having the counter reset.
On PlayStation.
It was nice getting those done early.
Yes.
And I will also say that I started Just Cause 3. On PlayStation, because I'd done it previously on Xbox. I'm working through games that have server-related trophies that I feel like are older, like towards the beginning of the PS4's lifetime, with certain games having their servers shut down over time. I'm like, I think I'll get these done sooner rather than later, just to be on the safe side, because it's only 1 to 3 trophies that each of the games has.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just want to get those done.
Yep.
So that I can get my plats and get my 100% and feel like I've, because that would be really annoying for me. Is like, I've done this entire game except this one trophy that needed online.
For sure, yeah. Yeah. That makes perfect sense that you're doing that, so.
And I'm enjoying it for the most part. It's one of those where I feel like they put too many challenges in, but that's fine. There is one thing that really annoyed me one of the days, and I'll have to check on the main menu, but there's no way to shut the online off, as far as I can tell, and the servers were playing around, and so it kept disconnecting me. Every time I went to the menu, it tried to reconnect me, and it took 30 seconds for it to go, oh no, the servers are down. Do you want to play offline? Yes. Go and do something for like 5 minutes. Pause the game. Oh, we'll try and reconnect you now. I literally said I'll play offline.
Yeah,
Another 30 seconds goes by, it tries to reconnect, and I'm like, please, I just want to shut that off while the servers aren't working. So if the servers stop working, is it going to do that to everybody that plays that game?
Yeah, all the time? That sucks.
That would make it like virtually like unplayable for certain people because it would drive them nuts.
Yep. Ay. Challenges.
Challenges.
I remember some of those challenges. Those wingsuit challenges.
There's so many of them. I've done the Sky Fortress DLC just to see whether the boost pack works on the normal challenges. Because if it does,
that could help.
Well, I can mess around instead of going through all the hoops. If you like fly close to the ground for long enough, it just gives you the high score that you need. You just fly in a circle.
Huh. Interesting.
And it says, and because you've got the like jetpack that you can just continuously make yourself go, it's like and go around. As long as you don't go out of bounds of the course, you can just fly around. and just
Interesting.
wait. I literally did that on the like 3 that are on the DLC, where you're flying around this like airship thing. I literally just went in circles around some little tower that's underneath, and I was like, okay. 10 minutes later, took one attempt, rather than me crashing 70 times.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I thought that was funny. I was like, I found an exploit.
Well, I mean, those challenges are what did you call them? Oh, would you like to raise your blood pressure? Enjoy challenge mode.
Here's a motorcycle that you now have to drive off a ledge and hope that you don't fall off when you hit the ground. Would you like to raise your blood pressure while playing this game? Come and try and 5-gear this challenge.
Oh, dear Lord. So I did
Just Cause 3, sponsored by heart medication.
So I did a couple of more things this past month. I did Grand Theft Auto 3 Definitive Edition. Woo!
Blast from the past.
I bought the triple pack over the holidays last year, and I just had an itch to play GTA. And so I haven't played GTA 3. It probably has been like 20 years ago since I did that, because that was the original Xbox that I played that on, because that was Xbox PS2 era that came out. And I don't think they had, or at least not on Xbox, they didn't have a port of it until now, that I know of. I know they had one for San Andreas, and I played that, but I don't think they had a port for 3 or Vice City until the definitive edition came out. So, in any case, I was really excited to play it again. You know, it's old, and so, and I don't know how much touching up they did to it. I think the controls worked perfectly well in it, so they may have tweaked some of the controls on it. But the graphics still, like, the people in that game do not look good, and the cars and the like environment look all right. Those are pretty decent.
People are always the hardest to like render well.
Yes. But like the people look like sort of blocky, chunky blobs.
Like some of the Marines in Halo.
But I will say the voice acting in that game is really well done. They have some pretty big name folks. They have like Michael Madsen doing one of the voices, and oh my god, now I can't think of any of the people, but they have some pretty decently like big name actors who did some of the voices for that game, and really well done. This story it's nothing to write home about, but it was good for what it was, and I enjoyed the size of the map. I think, and this is just a personal opinion, but I think that modern games, they're too big. It's too big. It's too much. You know, I don't want it to take 7 hours to drive from one side of the map to the other. You know, I don't need something to be that large. I think that the map for GTA 3 was plenty big. You know, it takes a couple of minutes, to go from one side to the other. And it had, plenty of variety of things to do. So you have like vigilante missions where you're running down criminals with the cop car, and firefighter missions where you're putting out fires with the fire truck, and paramedic missions where you're taking people to the hospital with the ambulance. And then you had a couple of these little like RC missions where you've got these little toy cars with bombs strapped to them that you go and blow up gang vehicles.
Did that one have rampages as well?
It had rampages, yep, where you have a certain weapon that they give you, and you have a certain time limit, and you have to kill a certain number of like specific gang members with that specific weapon type. So it had like 20 total of them, and then it had like 20 unique stunt jumps that you needed to do, and it had what's the other thing that I'm trying to think of? It had 4, I believe, of these like off-road vehicle challenges where you're in the Patriot, or you're in the in an off-road vehicle, in an SUV or something, and you have to go through the checkpoints, and they're like on the sides of mountains and things like that. And you kind of have to figure out the best path to get through. Those, I think, were the hardest thing in the game. They were the hardest thing that I remember from when I played it in the past, and I would say they were the hardest part of it for me still today. I think not as hard as they were when I originally played it, because probably
we have a few decades worth of experience.
A few decades worth of experience now with these kinds of things, but I do think they were probably still the hardest part of it. There were a couple of challenging things in some of the main story missions too, but yeah, like it was decent in terms of challenge. It had plenty of stuff to do, but none of the things felt like, oh my God, why do I have to do 7 million hours of this one thing? Right?
It didn't feel like there was too much of everything just to fill in a map that's too big. I think certain games do well with big maps, like the Elder Scrolls. I think that those big map games are good because they fill it with different things, and it's interesting to go and like talk to the people and do the quests and plunder the dungeons and stuff. But when it's like Valhalla, and it just feels like it's so much of the same. Like, how many wells do I need to blow open to go and kill destroy a cursed icon or open a chest?
Right. Yes.
And it's boring.
And the other thing about it, with the contrast between those two things, is you don't have to do every single thing in Skyrim. A lot of that stuff is optional stuff that you can go explore if you want to. You know, that makes
it's like
the
find
world
100
feel
locations,
big.
not find every location on the map. It's
Exactly.
read 50 skill books, not every skill book.
Yeah, and it's do these side quests, these major side quests, not every single side quest in the game.
Yeah, it's like do 10 main side quests and then like 50 misc objectives type deal.
And so, you know, you don't have to, you know, collect every single butterfly wing and, you know, plunder every single dungeon 16 times.
I spent 6 hours chasing paper.
Chasing paper. Yes, exactly. And whereas with Assassin's Creed, you do, right? Like you have to do every single one of those things. With GTA 3, moving back to that, you do have to do 100% completion. But that 100% completion is filled with a variety of activities, none of which outstay their welcome, in my opinion. Like, there's 100 hidden packages, but they give you stuff. For every 10 you find, you get a permanent spawn of a weapon at your hideouts. And those are really useful.
When you die, you lose everything, right?
Yes,
so
you lose
it's
all
nice
your...
to be able to get the weapons that you've unlocked.
You lose all your weapons and your armor and stuff, and so having those pickups be available at your hideouts is really helpful, because then it's like, oh, I want, you know, some more assault rifle ammo. Well, it's right here. I don't have to go find where that spawns on the map anymore, right? And so, like, it's useful as well as not being too much, right?
Yeah.
So I had a really good time going back through GTA 3. It was a nice way to sort of close out the month for me. And I think that, you know, I obviously have the nostalgia for it, but even if I didn't, you know, I still think it's a solid GTA game. So I think if you've played like San Andreas, I feel like you probably would enjoy 3 and Vice City as well.
Yeah, they're in a very similar vein. Like, I never played those back in the day. I didn't have a PS2. My brother had a PS2.
Yeah.
They're like the only games I ever remember him like 100% because he didn't do that, but he did that in those because he really enjoyed them.
Yep.
And I just remember like borrowing the game to play and just like getting a motorbike and driving around and listening to the radio.
Yep. Yeah. GTA 3 and Vice City and Morrowind were some of the first games that I ever did 100%. You know? I remember back, I don't know if you got this. I don't think that you did in the definitive edition. Maybe I did, but I just didn't realize it. And maybe this was for Vice City, so, because you can change your clothes in Vice City. You can't change your clothes in 3. So I may be misremembering, but you got a t-shirt that says like 100% or like, you know, Vice City or something like that, right? And so I wanted to get that because I wanted the like, I did this 100% t-shirt in the game. And they were some of my first experiences with wanting to complete something because it was fun.
Yeah. I did exactly the same in Morrowind as well. Like I did everything that I could find. I don't know whether it had 100% little counter, but I was like, I found every quest I could find. I did every dungeon I could find. I found all the artifacts.
Yep.
And I think like KOTOR as well. Knights of the Old Republic. I did all the side missions and it was just, I think like that for me is where my like achievement hunting came from, is wanting to 100% games.
Yep.
And so we just transferred that onto I'll get all the achievements, and that's something that people can see. Like you said about the t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I did this thing and I feel proud about it and I want to display the fact that I did it. And so that's always been a part of our like, at least like, you know, our teens to adult life is completing things. We get gratification from it, which is cool. Right. And I will say I felt the same way about Spyro that you do about GTA. When the definitive edition, like the Toys for Bob remaster came out, I was like, I can't believe it, it's amazing. And I went and 120% of the first one. Because that's the thing. But it was like, it's just, and it didn't feel too much. And I just had fun, and I remembered some of the secret areas to get to, where it's like you have to do super jumps and backwards, and it's just like I fully understand that like nostalgia hit of like, I remember this was so good. Because Spyro 1, the disc broke, and I could only do the first 4 worlds. I couldn't get to the 5th or 6th ones for like 15 years because I never bought another disc. You know, because discs were expensive. Well, because it was the PS1 version. Yeah. And so it was like second hand, and I was like, they might have the same problem mine does, and I don't want to spend money on one that might be broken or might break. And so when they did the remaster, I was like, yes. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, and games didn't used to be so freaking long, you know? Like GTA 3, it took about 30 hours. And it's an open world game with collectibles.
It was one of the bigger games for the time.
Yeah, it was one of the bigger games for the time that it came out. And now it's just like, things are so bloated, right? It's like a 100-hour game is fine, or a 200-hour game is fine, if it has enough content to justify that. But if it's just a bunch of challenge modes that are the same thing over and over and over and over and over again 500,000 times, or copy and paste little missions, or collectibles that's, you know, over a freaking 1,000 of them, right? Like, no, like, it doesn't need that. That's just extra shit that you're putting in there so that you can say that it's big, or to make it quote unquote feel big, when it just doesn't need that. It just doesn't need it. So
Agreed.
GTA 3 was a nice blast from the past. I had a lot of fun with it. And then the last thing that I worked on this past month that I just finished, it is February now that we're recording this, so I didn't quite finish it in February, but
January.
I did. January. Yes, thank you. I didn't quite finish it in January, but I did finish it now. It was the Resident Evil 6 Siege Mode DLC, the final DLC that I had for that game. It's been just over 10 years since I started playing that game, and it is finally complete.
Congratulations. Because I know that's one you wanted to get done for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Because and I was thinking about this today. I was talking with, so I did this with a couple of guys playing this mode, because it's obviously incredibly dead right now. So a couple of friends from another server, we played this game together, and we were talking, and I was like, why did I wait so long to do this? And it was because I feel like I remember the other 3 DLCs came in a 3-pack that I got as a bundle.
Yep.
And then the 4th one was separate. And so I was waiting for it to go on sale. And then when it finally did go on sale, it had just been so long after the fact that nobody that I knew.
Sale.
It might not have.
It didn't go on sale. I told you to buy it before they didn't have it on the store anymore.
That's fair. So I can't remember, but I bought it a couple of years ago, and I think it might have gone on sale. I think that you might have bitched at me to buy it, but I still waited, and it was on sale when I bought it. But regardless,
I don't know. There are definitely
way.
some I made you buy that were not on sale because it was like £4, and you were like, "No, I'm not buying it." And I was like, "It's £4. Just buy it." Well, dollars.
That was why I didn't play it initially. Was because I had gotten the other 3 as a bundle together, and I did those back in 2013. When they had come out, or I think when they were on sale as the bundle, but then this one wasn't. And then by the time I bought it, nobody was playing it anymore. I couldn't find anybody to play it with.
Yeah, they didn't even join sessions on TA.
I even tried to join sessions for it, and those fell through. So I just had a big problem with getting that one done. And so I'm very happy to have found a couple of friends that needed that done, and that we got it finished. So.
How many 360 games do you have left that you want to work on?
Oh boy,
because we're getting close to like the end of that era.
I mean a couple,
but not too
many, and there's precious few of them that I would feel super sad if I didn't get them done. I think the only one that I really do want to finish is Dance Central. Yes. That's my next 360 game that I'm really going to focus on trying to get done, because I only have a few songs left to master, and then I'll be finished with it. Yep. So that's the only one that I really am like, I want to complete that. But it's not multiplayer. This was the last game that I had achievements or trophies on it that has multiplayer that I'm going to try to get. Because there are some for a couple of my like Guitar Hero games and stuff, but I just don't have anybody to do those with, and they're not online. And so
they're couch co-op ones.
They're couch co-op ones, and I just don't have anybody to do it with. So
yeah,
unfortunately, those are ones that I've kind of written off. Gears 3, I've been working on a little bit, and it's one that maybe I will try to focus on a little bit more over this year.
Because that one is at least backwards compatible and doesn't have a remaster, so they may keep it
on for a little longer. Yeah, but it's like, again, it's one that I've kind of like, well, it's got a lot of stuff to do on it.
Yeah.
And it's one where it's like, do I want to spend another several hundred hours of my life doing this, or do I want to play other games?
Yeah.
You know?
I was just curious.
So it's one where I may, chip away at it over time, but if the server shuts down, at this point, I'm not heartbroken about it.
No.
I finished the vast majority. I have 80 out of 82 achievements or something. So I finished the vast majority of that game. I feel pretty good about that. So
definitely. Yep.
So that was my last stuff for this past month. I think we both had a good month in January. You played a couple of longer things. I got done with all 3 of my DLCs that I had on my to-do list for this year.
Nice.
So,
making a good start to the year.
Mm-hmm. And played through a couple of shorter things.
Yeah, I'm happy to be working on games with servers and getting those done, and so it's a little bit of a weight lifted. And there's some like co-op games we want to do, like Saints Row 4 and Get Out of Hell, that have 1 or 2 of those that I would like to play sooner rather than later.
Yeah, for sure. So what's up for you for next month?
I'm going to continue playing Just Cause 3. I think I'm going to do Mirror's Edge Catalyst after Just Cause 3.
Nice.
We'll continue to do Anthem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether I'll do any more Xbox next month or not. I feel like probably not. Like, I think I'll get to a point where I feel like I've done enough on PlayStation that I'll probably hop back over to Xbox and probably try and clean up Valhalla. I bought the DLC for Kingdoms of Amalur, so I can get that one done as well. And I think the only other 2 started games I have are The Surge and Elex, and so I'll see how I feel about maybe just pushing through all of those, getting those done, and then hopping back to PlayStation after that. But nice. I have no plans as to when that will be. That's just like the broad strokes of what I feel like I want to do. But it might change. Yeah.
So, but definitely continuing with Just Cause 3 and then probably playing Mirror's Edge after that.
Yeah, Mirror's Edge I have downloaded.
Catalyst.
Catalyst, not the first one.
Yeah.
Well, Catalyst is a reboot, so...
It is, yep. And it's a much more polished game than the original. Like, the original was good. I enjoyed it, but...
It was made more for PC.
Yes, it was. It was definitely made more for PC. And God, those speedrun times and 3-star challenge things are just hellacious. So don't ever put that on your account. Don't. For me, obviously, we're going to probably finish Anthem this month.
We should do, yeah.
And then probably start Saints Row, because that's the next one that we have kind of picked out to do.
Either Get Out of Hell or 4. I think Get Out of Hell first, because it's the one that we have to play online together for a certain number of hours.
Yep.
Whereas 4 is just like upload your face to online or something.
Yep. So those are ones that are sort of we'll play together, and so we'll probably finish Anthem this month and start one of those. Maybe not finish it, but we'll start it. And I have started Horizon Forbidden West. Woo! So I'm a few hours into that. I am really liking it so far. It's more Horizon, and I really liked the first one. So I'm interested to see where the story is going to take us for this one. And already had some reunions with a couple of the characters from the old one, and so I'm really glad that I went back and did the
refreshed
the New
memory.
Game Plus DLC to refresh my memory for it before playing this one. I think that helped immensely with just kind of knowing the characters and getting back excited for the story and stuff. So I'm enjoying that. And so that will probably take up a good chunk of my February. But if I do complete that, then my next one I'll probably bop back over to Xbox, and I will probably work on one of the sort of newer games from last year that's on Games Pass. There are a couple that I would like to play that came out last year that are still on Games Pass. Citizen Sleeper, which is like a space RPG resource management thingy kind of thing. So Citizen Sleeper is one that I would like to play. And then there are a couple of other ones, but that one probably will be the one that I will do next after Horizon. So something that's sort of a newer game that's still on Games Pass, that's a little bit shorter, as again, like trying to change it up, because sometimes too many really long things back to back to back can start to feel like a slog to me. So trying to break it up with some things that are, I think, a little bit shorter experiences. So that's my plan for February. Cool. Well, thank you for joining me, Mr. Iron Praetorian.
It's been nice to do this again and actually do it within the time frame that we said we would. So
right.
Just trying to be proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. First weekend into the next month, I think, sounds like a good time frame for us to do these.
Yeah, because the games are fresh in our minds.
Yes. And it's nice to just be talking about games again and doing little recaps and stuff. It's a nice form of closure, I think, for me, to just kind of go through those things and process them together, right?
And see how if we've played the games, whether our experiences differed or have slightly different opinions.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's just it's a nice like capstone for the month of like, oh nice, I did a couple of longer games, or I did like 5 shorties, or I did a mix, and not trying to fall back into old ways of like, I need to do this number of games because I need to talk about this number of games. It's like some months will be 5 games and some months will be 1 game, and some months will be like you finish 1 game and you've got 3 games on the go, and it's just like, it's nice to just talk about it and see what other people think.
Absolutely. So we hope that you guys had a great January, a good start to your new year. Let us know how you're doing, what you've been playing, if you've liked the things that you've been playing, if you've played some of the things that we played this month, and how you felt about them. We really do enjoy engaging with you guys in the comments. So thank you all for watching and listening. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.